What's up, guys? It's your boy Jacob here. You know, one of your youth leaders. This is my application for Cereal Eats, by the way. I don't know what I had to do to apply. I was told I had to do something. A video of me eating cereal. So here we go. I figured that since we're stuck in quarantine, now would be the perfect time to submit my application. And so yeah, I'm gonna eat some cereal, have a good time. We can talk if you want, because I know this is gonna be sent somewhere. Oh yeah, dude, thought I just spilled the milk, but we're all good. Can we talk about how much we miss sports, guys? Like, let's be honest here. Like, that is just so depressing that we no longer have any sports. But baseball is supposed to be back in May. That's what they're looking at. That's gonna be a good little target. Sorry, I got stuff up here I want to talk about in my 3-minute or my 4.5-minute monologue. All right, more cereal. I missed dinner tonight. I'm so busy with school, in case you guys were wondering. 7:40, got a paper I gotta write. It's gonna be a good time though. We're gonna do good. Well, dang, there's not really that much to talk about right now. All of our lives, pretty much consist of the same thing every day. The wake up, do the online school. Even though you Providence people have like such easy online school, I'm sorry, like I could do that in 30 minutes. But I got to report to class at 8 a.m. every day, and I can't leave until 3:25. Like, that's just so pathetic. Or that for me, that just sucks. But for you guys, it's just like a total dub. So yeah, we're in our final week this week. It'll be a very exciting time. Rusty's gonna bring the word. I hope it's Rusty. It'd just be weird if it's not Rusty. Like Dan out there bringing the word. That'd be what that'd be. That would just be shocking. Dan, we love you. All of us elderlies, all of us leaders here at RiverTown Youth. So, but seriously though, I need to know how you guys are doing. I miss all you guys, because I haven't been to youth in like 2 months. It's bad that I can't tell you the last time I went. I mean, that's a horrible thing. I probably shouldn't be saying this, but I was told to entertain, and this is, my form of entertainment. But yeah, no. Truly, like, the most sad thing about this quarantine is that there's truly nothing to watch. I mean, I'm pretty sure I've watched, All-American twice now, although 3 times. I'm watching season 2 for the 3rd time, season 2, episode 8. I can almost tell you what happens, like line for line now. Almost recite it line for line at this point. But yeah. All right, well, my time here is almost up. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Wasn't really much, but Rusty's gonna bring the word tonight. It's very exciting. And yeah, hope also Cereal Eats. If you guys see this, please let me be on the channel or on the Instagram. All right, love you guys. Everyone stay safe though. Seriously, that's something we really gotta take into account. Hopefully this thing will end soon, and we'll be done sooner or later. Back to living our normal lives or whatever normal was before this. I don't know what that is anymore. But yeah, once again, though, Cereal Eats, please hit me up. I'm desperate for ways to get myself out there, and I think this will be the best way. So yeah, thank you guys.
This week's top 10 is your favorite sporting moment in all of high school.
Number 10.
My favorite thing about playing soccer is having good games and coming up with really big saves.
Number 9.
The best moment of my sporting life is I threw a lob to one of my friends to end a game like a couple months ago.
Number 8.
my name's Gray, and I play volleyball for Providence. And the highlight of my volleyball season this year was getting to know the girls a lot more and going a lot further than I thought we would. So that was really exciting. So that was probably my highlight. Thanks.
7.
Hey, my name's Carter Chappell. I'm a sophomore at Providence High School. I play soccer. My favorite part of the soccer season is being with my friends and just getting to know each other.
Number 6.
My favorite part about high school volleyball was spending time with all my friends and playing a fun, amazing sport that I love.
Number 5.
My favorite highlight of varsity volleyball this year was probably the CCA game because I had finally connected with the setters and I feel like we did really well.
Number 4.
I'd say my favorite high school sports moment was probably scoring my first goal against Revault my sophomore year.
Number 3.
My favorite high school sports memory is bonding with the soccer team during our lock-in.
Number 2.
My favorite moment from high school softball was when we beat Episcopal in the district semifinals last year to take us to the championship.
Prize winner.
My favorite memory of varsity volleyball was my senior year when also 2 of my senior best friends wanted to play volleyball. But then they ended up quitting to play Powder Puff and left me the only senior on the team.
Well, we made it finally to the end of the book of Nehemiah. Nehemiah and this journey in rebuilding the city of Jerusalem was one of those journeys that you will, if you actually get a chance to go through it, you will never forget. It's coming home from captivity, coming home from all the things that you desire in freedom, in honoring the very one that you serve. At the same time, what we're going to find out in Nehemiah 13 is when you have an opportunity to serve God, and even when you put together the places and the things that you really want in serving God, whether it be standards, whether it be the people around you, whether it be the location, the environment in which you or your kids or your family to be in, all of these things they're beginning to have. But when Nehemiah 13 comes about, we're going to find out that unless you start addressing the roots of the very problems that you have, those same trees of deceit, dissent are going to still grow. My prayer is that as we're covering chapter 13, that we realize this is not really talking about idols or Moabites or anything that these people are going through on an evil sense. Is that when we allow things to come into our life on a consistent basis and we continue to do the same things, even though we, see the big picture as it should be, if we don't start addressing the roots are going to continue to grab us. Point number 1 today in our finishing up and conclusion of the series in Homeward is reflection. Being a history major by trade, I want to let you guys know that whenever I can see correlations between stuff that has already been done and said, whether it be historical sense or even happened yesterday, and to connect those to today's realm and to learn lessons that possibly I don't have to go through, but at the same time, to see history to repeat itself on a consistent basis, because history has a habit of doing that, you can somewhat predict what's going to happen in the future. And I realize that sometimes when God asks us to do certain things, it's going to look like something that's happened in the past, but God has something completely different in store and in mind. Although the people of Jerusalem did not have the city in glory as it was back then, they did have the city again. It was the gold and silver city of the greatest city of its day in Jerusalem, but they rebuilt it in stone and in brick and in mortar. It didn't even come close to what it was, but it was something great, even now, because of the centerpiece that was in the middle of it, which is God himself. Nehemiah, after one particular day in which he reads the laws of Moses again and again and again. He does it every day so the people will know, it will be entrenched in their brain what to do, what is right. He finally makes a trip. After all of these things have been completed in the city of Jerusalem, he finally makes a trip back to his leader, which was Xerxes, Artaxerxes in the Bible. And in doing so, he spent time, it says, specifically with the king. Now, his job was the cupbearer of the king. He was a food taster and so on, very well trusted in the kingdom of the Persian Empire. But then it says in verse number 6, and it says, in the 32nd year of Artaxerxes, he makes a trip back to Jerusalem. He's rebuilt and organized and put everything back into place as God intended it to be. He is a leader's leader. And then when he goes back there, and it doesn't say the exact time frame when he left or when he came back, but it does say he went back in the 32nd year of Artaxerxes. And when he went back and he found something there that he had to make sure that he fixed. What he saw was they were not keeping the Sabbath day holy. Now today, the Sabbath day is Sunday. What he's saying here in a present day sense is allowing God to be the centerpiece of your week. There is a time that is dedicated to Christ. Yes, we have to live our lives. Yes, we have to work. Yes, we are called to be in the world, to minister to the world in every way sense there is. Nowadays, we have to do it via online, which is fine. But God is saying to them, you are not keeping the Sabbath day holy. Nehemiah is re-emphasizing this. Also, the people that you're supposed to be providing for, which are the priests, the Levites, and so on, the clergy, who are doing a job to make sure that you're doing the right thing spiritually, you're not doing your part and investing in them. What does that mean to us? We have been placed in certain avenues in our family, whether it be the firstborn, the lastborn, whether it be in a place of leadership in our church or in our group of friends that we're in, and that place has to be honored. Allowing yourself to negate, your responsibility of being a leader just because you don't feel like it at the time, or you don't believe that you're in a position to do something, or you want to be lazy one day, that is no excuse in giving the gifts that God has given you to help those people in their ministry. I'm not talking about tithing here. I'm talking about using the things that God has given you internally to promote godly ideals in other people. When is the last time that you have taken of yourself, time that you could have spent on Netflix or whatever, and use that time to send a friendly text to one of your people that you sit with at lunch, especially during this time, and encouraging them to be bigger and better and bolder in Christ? Take that time to do that. It's a reflection, because sooner or later, when all of this is done, when all of this is over, when we get to see each other again, when you get to see that person that you write that letter to, that encouragement to, and they're going to smile at you and say thank you in real life, and maybe you actually get to get a hug from them. It's something that will be reflected on as years go by, and they will always remember those kind words, especially if they're going through a very difficult time. Point number 2 today is going to be refocus. Now, when Nehemiah came back and he found out that the very things that he left in place, which is the laws of Moses, were not being followed, and he is going to make a significant point to all the people that he put in charge. This is the very reason and why Jerusalem was destroyed in the first place. All those responsibilities that we put aside, and we wonder why either our parents, our teachers, our coaches, whatever it is, make a big deal about something that we see little value in. But yet there is so much purpose in what they ask us to do. In chapter number 13, in verse number 9, Nehemiah is going to go into the temple, the makeshift temple of God that they put in there, that they put in the city of Jerusalem. And in doing so, he is going to, it says specifically that he is going to toss the chambers. He is going to take every bit of furniture that is in that place, because the person he put in charge is not doing things the right way. He's going to take every bit of furniture and he says he's going to toss it out. Actually, it says he's going to throw out all the furniture that's in there. because he doesn't know for sure if it was done the right way. Because of one particular item or two particular items that he sees that is not done correctly, he is going to get back and he's going to make sure that these people are doing things the right way. It says in verse number 9, then he gave the orders to cleanse all of the chambers. I'll put things in perspective like this. Whenever Carrie and I, my wife, we have an argument of some kind, I always like to go back and analyze what I did wrong. Quite often it is to the point where I did something wrong or I took something differently that I shouldn't have taken. Sometimes it's on her too, but I try to look at it like this. We have a common goal and a common mindset in purpose. And in that purpose, if we can't get to a point where we are going in the same direction, we have to stop and reaffirm what we believe in. I am going one way with this youth group. I'm going one way with God. And some of you guys trust me more than you trust the one that we're serving, which I think is a very difficult place to be. I love my job. I love each and every one of you. I want you guys to be promoted through Christ all the time. I want you to have the best possible relationship with your family, with God, your friends, and all the above. But if you trust me more than you trust the one who we're serving, there's something wrong with that. Nehemiah was going to the leaders and saying this, because we are starting to do things the wrong way, because we're starting to have conflicts over the exact same problems we used to have, we are not making God the centerpiece of everything that we're trying to do. You want to work on the Sabbath? Why? You know that is specifically against what God has asked us to do. Context, you're going to do what, with who, and why, and take pictures where, with who, and with what? Again and again and again. And even though we get into the same trouble over and over and over again, we're continuing to go back because it feels comfortable. Sometimes you have to refocus your efforts. If you have an addiction, if you have a problem, and you continue to go to the same spots and the same avenues and the same way of doing things, the same way of thinking, and you don't address the problem itself, and that is this relationship. If that is not the centerpiece of your focus, what did when Isaiah went to heaven and he got to see God on his throne, what is the first thing that he saw? Angels surrounding him. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty. Someone asked me probably about a month ago now, how do I deal with this particular addiction? You surround yourself with the very thing that God surrounded himself with. People singing praise songs to the Father. If that means grabbing your phone and having Waymaker on repeat, that means having Waymaker on repeat. Or whatever song that you believe in that really ministers to you. Sometimes you have to refocus your efforts, and you can't do that by doing the same things. All right, guys, point number 3 today is going to be reconcile. Whenever Carrie and I have a disagreement, or even when I had disagreements with my grandmother, I know sometimes they say in the marriage counseling portion of it that, you never should go to bed angry, or you should address the issue immediately. In Carrie and I's relationship, and even with my grandmother, we needed time to relax a little bit and try to think about what we're going to say and how we're going to approach those things. And Nehemiah, although he very much addressed the issues that they were doing and what they were doing wrong while he was away, he wanted to also make sure that the people in Jerusalem got to see the appropriate way to do things. And yes, calling out people for their mistakes, but also showing them specifically, this is what God intends us to be, our type of relationship he intends us to have with him. The scripture goes like this. And once again, I'm going to use the example of keeping the Sabbath day holy, because that's the one that he uses here. As soon as it began to grow dark on the gates of Jerusalem before the Sabbath, I commanded that the doors should be shut and gave orders that they should not be opened until the Sabbath day is over. Here's what was going on. While Nehemiah was away, people continued to trade goods and services on the Sabbath day. They would be making money. They would have, wine presses, whatever. Work would not stop. They would not allow God to be the centerpiece of that particular day, or the worship of that day, or the sacrifice of that day. They would not allow themselves to do that. And when Nehemiah came back, it was not on the Sabbath day, but the Sabbath day on that particular week, or the next week that was coming up, on that day, he says, you know what? It's all going to end right now. I have made a decision that God is going to be the centerpiece of my life. And the drastic decision, and we think it's drastic because people are going to lose money in this sense, but they're going to gain so much more. You're going to sometimes lose your pride in an argument, because that's the way the argument's going to go, because you have to, reconcile your faults. But what you're going to gain in return is a friend sometimes that will never leave you and will help you in any case possible if you allow that to take place. The people who are going to trade in the city of Jerusalem on the Sabbath day, what they're doing is they're lining up at the gates. Nehemiah said the gates are going to be closed. And since the gates were closed, the people had goods and services to trade in the city of Jerusalem. They made camp outside the gates. The next day after the Sabbath, Nehemiah goes to these people, and it says specifically, because they lodged there, he says he warned them, he beat them, and he laid hands on them. He grabbed them and threw them. He beat them. I'm not saying go beat your friends because you disagree with them. But they were going to find out that this is not appropriate anymore. To take your difficult time, that addiction, that problem, that person in your life, and to say, listen, this is where it's going to stop. Drawing lines in the sand is not a bad thing, but allowing reconciliation to happen through those drawing sand lines is important. Did the people stop trading with Jerusalem because they couldn't trade on the Sabbath anymore? No, they continued to trade. But to understand that people around you need to understand that they have a priority, that you have a priority. And that priority is not, once again, putting stuff online that should not be there. That's not my priority anymore. My language, the stuff that I say and stuff that I do, my priority is promoting him, not promoting this. And I realize sometimes we're going to make mistakes. And that's what we're more afraid of sometimes than standing up, is that people are going to call us out. Being called out is not a bad thing. These people, in doing this, and by the way, they knew what the Jerusalem people stood for, the Jewish people stood for, but yet they did it anyway. But to put their lives and their priorities in perspective, this is what I'm going to honor first. Everything else is secondary. Nehemiah is saying to the people, again, although we've been taught this, although we know this, although our ancestors have been punished for this, we are not going to continue doing it the same way. We are going to change. And I'm putting this line in the sand, not so mistakes won't happen, but understand where the reconciliation factor is. At this point, I am going to apologize. At this point, I am sorry. At this point, this is where I stand up and I make a stand for him, because this is who I want to serve. Hope you enjoyed our series and the series of Homeward in the book of Nehemiah. I'm looking forward to our next series as well. And so the more details about that are going to come up.
So please join me in this time of telling God that he's the only thing that we need, even if the other things that we might have prioritized have been taken away, and let him know that we're grateful for the very thing that we're celebrating this weekend.
Raise a hallelujah the ashes, hope will arise. From death is defeated, and the King is alive. I raise a hallelujah with everything inside of me. I raise a hallelujah, and I will wash the darkness free. I raise a hallelujah in the middle of a mystery. I raise a hallelujah. Fear you lost your hold on me. Oh, I'm gonna sing in the middle of a storm, louder and louder. You're gonna hear my praises roar from the ashes. Hope will arise, and death is defeated, and the King is alive. Sing a little louder, 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 sing a little louder. In the presence of my enemies, sing a little louder. Louder than the unbelief, sing a little louder. Our weapon is a melody, oh sing a little louder. Heaven comes to fight for me, sing a little louder. In the presence of my enemies, sing a little louder. Louder than the unbelief, sing a little louder. Our weapon is a melody, oh sing a little louder. Heaven comes to fight for me. Oh, I'm gonna sing in the middle of a storm, louder and louder. You're gonna hear my praises roar from the ashes. Hope will arise, and death is defeated, and the King is alive. Oh, I'm gonna sing in the middle of the storm, louder and louder. You're gonna hear my praises roar up from the ashes. Hope will arise, death is defeated, and the King is alive. I raise a hallelujah. I raise a hallelujah. I raise a hallelujah. I raise a hallelujah.